human existence was never meant to be lived devoid of true power and deep meaning. Yet the crucial key to this power, to this higher purpose, was ingeniously hidden in plain sight, buried beneath a thick layer of ancient myths, distorted beliefs, and pervasive fear. Perhaps from your earliest conscious moments, you felt a dissonance, a subtle, barely perceptible inkling that something in this world isn't quite as it's been presented. It was a quiet but persistent knowing, whispering that life holds something far deeper and grander than it appears, than you were led to believe. And in that intuitive hunch, you were absolutely right. What if the entire reality you were diligently taught from the cradle was intentionally or unintentionally distorted beyond recognition? What if your thoughts, these seemingly fleeting sparks of consciousness, don't just influence the course of your life, but possess the truly incredible ability to actively create it, to shape its very fabric? For countless centuries, this fundamental truth, this sacred wisdom, was carefully guarded, deliberately distorted, and skillfully hidden in plain sight. The reason was not its unreality or absurdity, but its astonishing, virtually limitless power. The ancient Egyptians, whose civilizational achievements still astound us, possessed this knowledge. The great Hermetic mystics, who dedicated their lives to understanding universal laws, actively practiced it. And at the heart of this ancient, comprehensive teaching stood Thoth, the majestic god of wisdom, writing, and magic, who encoded the foundational laws of creation in sacred texts, intended only for the chosen, for those ready to receive them. Yet now, in this very moment, you are here, and this undoubtedly is not by chance. It holds profound meaning. True knowledge, like the currents of a great river, flows to an individual only when their consciousness is ripe, when they are truly ready to accept and comprehend it. Each of us came into this world like a clean, untouched slate, completely open, deeply intuitive, and intrinsically connected to the primal essence of being, before language, before beliefs, before any conditioning. In those first moments, you might have felt a faint hum of something immeasurably deeper, a subtle, vibrant pulse beating beneath the seeming mundane of daily life. But the very moment your existence manifested in this world, the process of programming began. You were given a name, defined by boundaries, measured by external criteria, taught what to believe and what to fear, and this happened not out of malice, but because those who shaped you were themselves products of the same invisible, pervasive architecture of consciousness. From your earliest memories, your first steps in this world, you were relentlessly taught to look externally, to seek truth in authority figures, to find your identity in reflections, and to derive satisfaction solely from external achievements. You were generously handed predefined notions of success, love, failure, and purpose, and convinced they were your own, though none originated from the depths of your soul. Every system you encountered, from the rigid structures of school to the realms of entertainment and sacred religious dogma, steadily taught you to suppress your intuition and replace it with prescribed beliefs. Even your imagination was brought under control. Fantasy was relegated to mere fiction, meant only for artistic works. Intuition was ruthlessly dismissed as immaturity, and ancient knowledge was declared mythology, superstition, something to outgrow, to become adult. You were given facts, but denied wisdom, provided data, but deprived of true meaning. You were taught to memorize ready answers, instead of being encouraged to deeply reflect and question imposed assumptions. And perhaps the most dangerous of all these false assertions was the conviction that reality is fixed and immutable, your thoughts fleeting, powerless, and utterly meaningless, the world around you solid and material, and you yourself separate from it. It was within this grand lie that they securely buried the key to your true power. The real truth is that human consciousness doesn't just passively perceive its surroundings, it actively shapes and projects them. Long before the industrial age erected its factories and towering skyscrapers, ancient civilizations already possessed this profound knowledge. Thoth, revered as the scribe of the gods and keeper of divine order, didn't invent this teaching. He carefully preserved it, safeguarding and enshrining it in the sacred emerald tablets and in the instructions that later formed the foundation of all Hermetic philosophy. He left not a dogmatic belief system, but a powerful mechanism for activating inner potential. It was not a call for blind submission, but rather an invitation to decipher for those ready to remember their true nature. For what if manifestation isn't just a fleeting trend, but a long-forgotten universal law? Not mysterious magic or sophisticated manipulation, but a natural state of alignment with the flow of being. What if our thoughts are far more than mere electrical impulses in the brain? What if they are subtle frequency vibrations, powerful transmissions into a living energy field that invariably responds to our signals? The powers that be never wanted you to grasp this truth. For if you truly realized how boundless your power is in a state of genuine alignment, you would be impossible to control. You would stop seeking material possessions for self-worth. You wouldn't chase empty titles and recognition to be seen. You wouldn't obey rules written by people who never questioned the deeper purpose of your soul's arrival in this world. You would forever refuse to play small, to hold back your true potential. You would stop submitting to systems that feed on your doubts and insecurity. You would remember that the mind subjugates reality, not the other way around. Some insights, being esoteric in nature, are too controversial for open public discussion. However, they are always available to the few who are ready to receive them into their consciousness. For what the Kybalion subtly hints at is precisely what Thoth once embedded in every minute layer of creation. It is a complex matrix of symbols, cycles, and energetic blueprints that are a direct reflection of the divine mind itself. The famous phrase, "as above, so below," was not merely a poetic expression. It was a meticulously designed map, a cipher for those with the inner vision to discern its true meaning. But here lies a crucial nuance. This map reveals its secrets only when you are in the appropriate, correct state of consciousness. It is not a secret that can simply be handed down from one person to another. It awakens and activates within you when you achieve the readiness to become what this secret demands of you. This is precisely why you can hear such information hundreds of times, read it in dozens of different books, and yet feel no internal shift. It's not about what you know intellectually. It's about the vibrational frequency you are attuned to. The secret of manifestation, left by Thoth, does not respond to selfish desires. It is entirely indifferent whether you seek more things, wish to win a game, or desire effortless living. It reveals itself only when the signal of your inner world becomes crystal clear. This happens when your thoughts, emotions, reactions, and awareness achieve complete and flawless harmony. And right now, as you perceive these words, something deep within you may be stirring. It's a quiet, barely perceptible memory, a flash of recognition that pierces your being. This is not mere coincidence. It is true resonance, The key is not handed to you from outside. It is activated from within yourself. The programming imposed on your consciousness was never permanent. It was merely a layering. And layer by layer, thought by thought, you are capable of peeling it away, revealing your true essence. What remains beneath is something truly divine. Long before advanced science named atoms and formulated complex equations, ancient sages understood something incomparably deeper. This knowledge required neither a microscope nor a telescope for verification, for it was accessible through direct knowing. They asserted that the universe is not woven from familiar matter. According to their teaching, it consists of mind. Moreover, this assertion was not metaphorical, but utterly literal. Everything we perceive with our sight, everything we touch, everything that seems tangibly solid to us, is nothing other than thought crystallized into tangible form. Such is the first Hermetic principle. All is mind. The universe is mental. Being itself, in essence, is consciousness in continuous motion. The world does not exist separately from you. Rather, it arises through your participation. And this is not some vague spiritual concept, but the purest, literal truth. Your beliefs, your feelings, your expectations, and the object of your focus, all of these become the very filter through which all multidimensional reality is formed. It's not just a lens for interpretation, but a powerful generator. You not only interpret the surrounding field, but also actively radiate signals into it. And these signals are not mere impulses, but clear instructions, directives. This is the knowledge Thoth possessed. This is what he encoded in ancient manuscripts. And these were not rituals of worship, but profound codes for awakening true potential. The emerald tablets were by no means primitive poetry. They were encrypted maps, intended for those who possessed the ability to read between the lines. When Thoth asserted that all is mind, the universe is mental, he was not hypothesizing. He was proclaiming the fundamental basis of all existence, a basis that modern science is only fragmentarily beginning to rediscover. For instance, the phenomenon of the observer effect in quantum physics clearly demonstrates that particles do not exhibit solid properties until they are observed. And what is observation, if not directed awareness? It is mind. However, the system you exist within was never designed to uphold this profound and comprehensive truth. On the contrary, it was engineered to deliberately bury it, concealing it from the masses. You were essentially taught to perceive your own mind as something purely personal, internal, and isolated, merely a tool for survival in an external world that, it was asserted, was utterly indifferent to your thoughts and intentions. But if, as we've established, all is mind, then your thoughts are far from personal. They are generative. They radiate in powerful waves, imprinting and shaping the very field of your reality. And this field listens not to what you utter aloud or consciously desire, but to what you vibrate with most consistently and genuinely. It's impossible to imitate this state. You cannot manifest abundance if you are vibrating with a sense of lack and scarcity. You cannot genuinely create love while dwelling in constant fear of loss. The field does not respond to your verbal formulations. It responds solely to your frequency. And frequency is not some New Age esoteric invention or abstract concept. It is the emotional tone you abide in daily, the inner resonance you radiate. This is why the principle of mentalism is fundamental. Because once you truly realize that thought creates form, everything changes radically. You stop questioning how the world around you is structured and begin to explore how you yourself are structured. Thoth, the great enlightener, brought this knowledge not to assert dominance or overshadow others with his wisdom. His true intention was to empower humanity to be true creators, not passive consumers of existing reality. He deeply understood that we are all fractals of the divine mind, indivisible sparks of infinite being, manifesting as individual entities. Each of us, he believed, possesses an innate ability to create entire worlds from the depths of our inner being. However, this is possible only if we remember our true nature. The principle of mentalism, asserting that all is mind, transcends a simple philosophical postulate. It places a colossal responsibility upon us. If indeed everything emanates from mind, then each of us bears direct responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, and the energy we constantly radiate into the surrounding field. This responsibility should not be perceived as a cause for guilt or self-flagellation. On the contrary, it holds a deeply liberating potential. It means that an individual is not a helpless victim of external chaos. Instead, they become an active participant in a cosmic feedback loop where their inner state and consciousness directly shape their external experience and circumstances. It is in this realization that the great secret begins to crystallize. Manifestation, or the bringing forth of what is desired, is not about trying to control the external world or bend it to your will. True manifestation is the masterful command of one's own mind, one's own energy, and achieving complete alignment with the universal laws of being. This is precisely why Thoth's teachings were kept in strict secrecy for centuries. The reason was not their forbidden nature, but that most people were simply not ready to perceive and utilize such power. Power, without deep understanding and wisdom, inevitably leads to corruption. And this kind of power, creative, energetic, spiritual, requires a level of consciousness that significantly transcends ordinary desires and egoistic aspirations. It demands deep self-awareness, unwavering integrity, and complete presence in every moment. This is why these teachings were deliberately veiled, transmitted through complex riddles, and carefully guarded by symbols. The purpose was not to make them inaccessible, but to protect them from misuse and distortion. You may have heard the famous phrase, "When the student is ready, the teacher appears." However, in this context, it takes on an even deeper meaning. When an individual's inner frequency aligns with truth, truth itself reveals itself to them. This is precisely what is happening right now. This is not the beginning of your learning in the traditional sense, but rather the beginning of your remembering. This power has always resided within you. You simply mistakenly believed it was somewhere external, that it needed to be sought, earned, or acquired. But Thoth did not offer us a ladder to ascend to some external truth. He gave us a mirror to look into. You don't need to become someone entirely new to access this profound truth. On the contrary, you need to shed all the false notions you were taught. You must stop demanding external proofs and begin to listen to your internal resonance. The mind is not merely a container to be filled with knowledge. It is a powerful projector that shapes your reality. And the moment you begin to use it with this profound awareness, your entire world starts to restructure. The question isn't whether you are capable of manifesting what you desire. The true question is, are you ready to become the version of yourself who already possesses this ability and actively uses it? Manifestation, contrary to popular misconceptions, is not the result of persistent, strenuous desire. It is not the mechanical repetition of affirmations in front of a mirror or endlessly writing down your aspirations on paper in the vain hope that the universe will take notice. This is how numerous superficial teachings presented this concept, which are nothing more than a commercialized, distorted version of a profound, ancient truth. However, authentic manifestation, that which was encoded by Thoth and carefully preserved by Hermetic masters, is not a magic spell or ritual. It is, first and foremost, a state of being. You do not attract into your life what you passionately desire. Instead, you attract what you essentially are. The energy you embody, the emotions you habitually experience day by day, and the beliefs residing just beneath the surface of your consciousness all constitute the invisible ingredients of your personal frequency. And frequency is the universal language of the field, the very language reality speaks. It's not your words, nor a meticulously crafted vision board that determines your destiny. It is the frequency, the vibration you maintain when no one is watching, the one you truly live in, when you're not just playing at alignment, but actually abiding in it. Herein lies the trap many fall into. They try to manifest from a state of desperation. They utter affirmations, yet internally feel like imposters. They focus on abundance, but act from deep scarcity, and then genuinely wonder why their efforts yield no results. The truth can be harsh, but it is also liberating. The universe does not give you what you ask for. It grants you what you transmit with your very being. You simply cannot outsmart the frequency you are attuned to. You can only change it. And this change is not about thinking new thoughts once or twice. It requires becoming someone entirely different, not by adding something new, but by remembering your true essence. Alignment at its core means complete coherence. It is a harmonious correspondence between your mind, body, emotions, and soul. When what you think perfectly matches what you feel, and what you feel is reflected in your actions, and your actions, in turn, serve what your spirit truly seeks. That is when the field responds. It is at this moment that manifestation ceases to be an exhausting effort and transforms into a natural expression of your inner state. A tree does not exert colossal effort to grow. The sun does not force its light to pour onto the earth. And you, when in true alignment, do not compel your reality to manifest. You simply allow it to unfold, to reveal itself naturally. However, alignment requires unwavering honesty, ruthless honesty with yourself. You must stop pretending your thoughts don't matter. You must cease covering your avoidance and fears with superficial spirituality. You must stop repeating what you've heard from others and begin to feel what is true for you. There is no shortcut, no workaround. You cannot simply label your pain with positivity and call it alignment. That is nothing more than a show, a facade. And the universe does not respond to a show. It responds to authentic presence. This is where Thoth's ancient wisdom dispels the darkness, like a flash of lightning. His philosophy was never focused on acquiring more external goods. It always called for inner growth, for becoming something greater. Your presence here is not meant to manipulate reality, forcing it to grant you what you desire. On the contrary, you are here to harmonize yourself so deeply with your authentic nature that reality itself will have no choice but to mirror it. This is not magic or mysticism. It is an immutable law, the very fundamental principle that governs the movement of stars and cosmic cycles, the breath of life and the flow of time. It is the principle of correspondence, stating, as within, so without. When an individual ceases to relentlessly chase external pursuits and begins to focus on internal alignment, everything around them undergoes radical transformation. Your scattered goals transform into clear intentions. Your fleeting desires evolve into distinct clarity. Your life ceases to be a battlefield and transforms into a clear mirror. You stop tormenting yourself with the question, "Why isn't this happening for me?" And you begin to ask a much deeper question. What part of me is not yet aligned with what I claim to desire? This is the true effort, work that can be uncomfortable, yet incredibly liberating and deeply sacred. For manifestation is not about acting harder or exerting more effort. Its essence lies in neutralizing what distorts your internal signal and eliminating all interference on its path to manifestation. Fear, doubt, shame, constant comparison with others, all of this is like static noise. They block the signal. They clutter your communication channel with reality. And unfortunately, we were often taught to ignore these frequencies, suppress them, or even worse, blame ourselves for having them. However, the ancient teachings were always crystal clear. What you suppress, you inevitably project externally, and what you don't heal within yourself, you unconsciously manifest in your life. It is for this reason that many people only see isolated glimpses of manifestation, but never achieve its stability and consistency. They manifest one desired outcome, yet the next remains out of reach. They get a job, but don't find peace. They earn money, but don't experience a true sense of self-worth. This occurs because manifestation is not merely about attracting things from the outside. It is about receiving an accurate reflection of your inner state. The external world is not a prize or a reward. It is primarily feedback. And this means that if your life feels discordant or unaligned, it is not a punishment from above. It is a mirror that delicately but persistently asks you to stop desiring superficially and to begin deeply calibrating your inner state. And here is the most humbling truth of all. You are always manifesting. You cannot deactivate this process. You do not enter and exit the creative field of being. Every belief, every reaction, every emotion, every judgment, all of it resonates in this field and inevitably forms certain patterns in your reality. The question is not whether manifestation works in principle. The question is whether you are aware of what you are manifesting right now. Alignment is not just an acquired skill. It is a fundamental state of existence, a deep commitment to inner harmony. It is a powerful rebirth of authentic self-identity, wherein the universe itself begins to mirror your true, unadorned self, not hidden behind masks, not seeking external approval, not a wounded child fruitlessly striving for self-sufficiency, but you, the one who never lost their divine spark. This is precisely the manifestation of reality that Thoth proclaimed. It is not witchcraft or clever manipulation, but a deep memory, an ancient recollection of a truth that precedes the very emergence of language, a truth that silently whispers. You do not need to force reality into obedience. It is enough to simply return to your authentic nature, and then it will yield. There is a compelling reason why many tend to dismiss the concept of manifestation as a deception. Why is this the case? They diligently practice visualizations, repeat affirmations, keep gratitude or intention journals, yet observe no significant changes in their lives. Meanwhile, there are others who, seemingly effortlessly, bring what they desire into reality. From the outside, this might appear to be pure luck or blatant injustice. However, such an impression is misleading. In reality, it is the manifestation of profound alignment, genuine readiness, and most importantly, perfect resonance. The teachings of Thoth were never intended for the masses. This wasn't due to elitism, but rather a profound, fundamental truth. Much like you wouldn't entrust a child with fire without first teaching them how to handle it safely, to prevent burns. This sacred knowledge was meant to be revealed only when the student reached a stage where they could truly comprehend it without distortion. This is precisely why the ancient world was permeated with system of initiation. Their purpose wasn't to restrict access to knowledge, but to protect it, not to exclude those who sought it, but to meticulously prepare them. Power devoid of awareness inevitably leads to corruption, and the true form of manifestation is nothing short of colossal force. The ability to give form to matter through the mind, to condense boundless possibilities into tangible form solely through a state of perfect alignment. However, this is where the fundamental misconception of most people lies. They approach the process of manifestation like a commercial transaction, as if the universe is some automatic dispenser, and their intention is merely the currency to obtain what they desire. I intensely want this, so I will focus all my thoughts on it. I will visualize it in minute detail. I will tirelessly repeat it like a mantra. Yet, beneath this visible surface, in the depths of the subconscious, entirely different vibrations are actually being transmitted. A feeling of lack, a desperate need, a hidden fear, or excessive attachment. Their expressions don't stem from a state of inner wholeness and completeness, but rather from a sense of its absence, and the subtle field of reality, being absolutely precise and impartial, reflects this inner vibration without the slightest hesitation. This is why so many claim it doesn't work, for what they mistakenly call manifestation is in fact merely a form of manipulation. Its roots lie in the desperation of the ego, not in the deep wisdom of the soul. The ego always strives to acquire, to possess something. The soul, however, yearns to express, to manifest itself, and manifestation responds exclusively to the latter. If your desire stems from a state of separation, if it's meant to prove your own worth, if it's masked by a sense of lack, then it doesn't matter how elevated or spiritual your language may be. It cannot align with truth. And this happens not because you are being punished, but because the all-encompassing field of reality simply cannot be deceived. This is the true essence. The universe is not withholding what you desire from you. You are not blocked, and you are not broken. You are merely being invited to rise to the frequency that corresponds to what you are asking for. The universe does not grant you what you want as an external object. It meets you exactly where you are in the present moment. This is why the secret of Thoth is not simply a set of rituals, spells, or clever tricks. It is a profound transformation. It is a complete restructuring of your inner world until your outer landscape is inevitably compelled to align with it. Most people are not ready for this, for they are unwilling to let go of the version of themselves they are accustomed to being. They passionately desire to manifest abundance, yet they continue to identify with limitation and scarcity. They seek to invite love into their lives, but are internally convinced of their own inadequacy. They yearn to change their lives while avoiding changing their core identity. However, manifestation works entirely differently. It demands a symbolic death, the death of the false self, the outdated persona, the imposed game, the programmed identity that never truly belonged to you. This is the price, and for many this price seems prohibitively high. But for those who are truly ready, genuinely ready, it is not even a matter of choice. It is more like a return to self. You are not failing in the process of manifestation. On the contrary, you are being invited to a deep alignment. The resistance you feel, the sense of disappointment, these are merely the boundaries of your old frequency, which is now dissolving. The friction arising along this path is not a sign of failure. It is valuable feedback. It is an echo of the self you are no longer meant to carry. And until you shed that version of yourself, the one built on endless shoulds, shame, and the instinct for survival, you will continue to attract more evidence of who you were, rather than who you truly are. The secret of Thoth is revealed only when the heart is open and the ego is silent. This is why this teaching finds you only at the moment when you are truly ready. Ready not to receive something, but ready to become someone. Someone who remembers that the field of being does not speak in words. It communicates through vibrations, and vibration, in turn, is formed by your true identity. Not the one imposed upon you from outside, but the one buried beneath all the noise, the one patiently waiting for its manifestation. So if you have ever wondered, why isn't this working for me? Try asking a different question. Ask yourself, who am I in the moment I make this request? Ask, do I believe I'm separate from what I seek? Or am I ready to embody it right now? Because the truth, paradoxically, is both ruthless and delightful. The field of being merely mirrors your authentic essence. And when who you are becomes consistent, clear, and perfectly aligned, everything around you changes. This is a much deeper path, a genuine path, and that is why this secret is not proclaimed from every rooftop. It does not require your rational intellect. It requires your complete surrender, not to something external, but to what has always resided within you. For true manifestation, when authentic, does not feel like sorcery. It feels like coming home. You were never merely surrounded by symbols. On the contrary, they literally formed your very essence. From the intricate patterns adorning ancient temples to the spiraling structure of your own DNA, reality itself has consistently communicated in the language of geometry. It is not just art or decoration, but a fundamental means of expression. This language, predating words, was inscribed not with ink, but by form itself. Ancient civilizations grasped this profound truth. They didn't just erect monuments, they consciously encoded specific frequencies into stone. Every angle, every graceful curve, every repeating outline served as a kind of key to understanding. And the chief architect behind so many of these creations was, without a doubt, Thoth. To comprehend the deeper nature of manifestation, one must move beyond simple affirmations and energy practices. It requires an understanding of the underlying structure, for the universe is far from random. It adheres to clear patterns. Every atom rotates according to an immutable law. Every plant grows following a specific sequence. Every galaxy spirals in its own rhythm. The Hermeticists called this the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. But they were not using metaphors. They meant it literally. The structure of the cosmos is reflected in the workings of your own mind. The patterns of creation do not merely surround you. They reside within you. This is where sacred geometry enters the scene. It presents itself not as a mystical teaching, but as a precise blueprint of all existence, the flower of life, the seed of life, the Merkaba. These are not merely aesthetically pleasing symbols you might find on yoga mats or as tattoos. They are vibrational codes, mathematical truths capable of stabilizing consciousness, forms that directly interact with your energetic field. You do not just contemplate sacred geometry, you resonate with it. This is why you might feel something special when you see these patterns. Even if your rational mind cannot comprehend them, it is not your intellect reacting, it is your soul remembering. Thoth, as the keeper of ancient knowledge, embedded these symbols in temples, scrolls, and rituals for one compelling reason: geometry bypasses the rational mind. It speaks directly to the subconscious. It orders chaos. It aligns you with the universal rhythm. In ancient Egypt, temples were not merely places of worship. They served as calibration chambers. The stones themselves vibrated in harmonic ratios. Passing through them was not a symbolic act. It was an alchemical transformation. You entered in one state and emerged in an entirely different one. This is how the ancients carried out their manifestations, not only with words, but by tuning their environment. Modern society has lost this understanding. It treats space purely functionally. Buildings are square, fluorescently lit, disconnected. We have replaced resonance with efficiency, and in doing so, we have fallen out of sync with the deeper field. But sacred geometry has not disappeared. It was merely buried, hidden in architecture, encoded in art, woven into myths, and most importantly, it still lives within you. Your breath follows the Fibonacci sequence. Your heartbeat obeys a natural rhythm. Even the structure of your thoughts traces patterns that reflect the cosmic design. When a person begins to consciously integrate sacred forms into their space, whether through visual images, mental constructs, or energetic practices, they gradually return to a state of inner coherence. This harmonious alignment is precisely the true requirement of the manifestation process. It is about achieving complete correspondence between one's own inner structure and the fundamental order of the universe. If an individual's inner world is in a disjointed, chaotic state, the signal emanating from them into the surrounding field will inevitably be distorted, losing its purity and direction. However, when the mind, body, and emotional sphere come into a unified, sacred rhythm, the person transforms, becoming a true conduit for creation. They cease to be merely a petitioner or manipulator, but become a pure mirror, reflecting the divine order, becoming its resonator. This is why certain ancient practices, such as chanting mantras, creating mandalas, and performing rhythmic movements, possess such incredible power. Their effect is due not so much to blind faith as to their deep correspondence with the principles of ancient geometry. These methods serve to precisely tune the individual, calibrating their internal systems, and once such tuning is achieved, the universal field responds instantly. This happens not because the individual has somehow coerced or compelled the field, but because they themselves have achieved structural correspondence with what they were calling into their reality. This is why the great Thoth taught using symbols. Words, being flexible and ambiguous, can lie or mislead. Symbols, however, lack this ability. They do not merely describe reality, they expose its very essence, revealing fundamental truths. To harness this power, one does not need to delve into complex mathematical calculations or become an ascetic mystic. It is enough to simply begin to perceive the patterns manifesting in nature, in one's own emotions, and even in one's thoughts. Start observing what repeats, what spirals, what expands and contracts in the infinite dance of being. For the geometry of your own life is not arbitrary or random. It is a direct reflection of the inner architecture of your consciousness. Every form with which you find deep resonance is an opening door. Every pattern you comprehend and decipher is another step on the path to full alignment with the universal order. And when you begin to exist in a harmonious rhythm, abandoning chaos and inner resistance, you will discover that manifestation is not an isolated action, but a continuous flow. It is a state of constant unfolding, a dynamic conversation between you and the universe, conducted in the language of forms. This was the very secret by which ancient civilizations lived, but which modern culture hastily rejected, considering it merely a simple symbolic superstition. However, you are here, in the present moment, awakening to this knowledge, remembering it. And this remembrance is not just new information, it is a true activation. It is a fundamental step toward achieving inner and outer harmony. Because when you align with the original geometry of creation, the universe ceases to resist you and begins to create through your own being, manifesting in your life. True manifestation is inconceivable without deep awareness. This is not about a superficial understanding that dissipates like fog in the mind, but about a piercing, all-encompassing vision capable of penetrating the veil of illusions with terrifying clarity. This is where the authentic journey begins. It doesn't start with asking the universe for more, but with asking yourself, why was there ever a feeling of separation from it in the first place? Thoth's teachings were not intended for the general public. They were whispered to the few who could hold paradox in their heart, to those who could look at the material world and see only a mirage, who could experience their own pain and yet realize their wholeness. This is why awareness represents the true initiation. It demands the complete destruction of every false identity you have inherited, every mask, every title, every story you clung to, striving only to feel like someone. And when these layers burn away, only a pure, silent, yet incredibly powerful presence remains. This presence is your true essence, that which existed before any programming, before you were taught who to be, what to fear, and how to think. You have been conditioned to perceive awareness as a passive state, as mere observation. However, this is a fundamental misconception. Authentic awareness is active. It possesses catalytic power. It begins to rewrite your very essence the moment you become utterly honest with yourself. The moment you stop avoiding your shadows and begin to hold them in your field of vision without a trace of judgment. The ancient sages understood that manifestation is the fruit, while awareness is the unshakable seed. If your inner field is cluttered with unprocessed emotions, unconscious stories, or inherited traumas, no vision board will be able to change the course of your life. This internal disorder vibrates. It constantly transmits a certain signal, and the universe listens attentively to it. This is why the vast majority of manifestation attempts fail. The reason is not in the flawed method, but in the distorted signal being transmitted. You cannot deceive this field. You cannot bypass your own vibrational frequency. This is why the path of the initiate was never a path to easy glory or external splendor. It was always a path of initiation, for it ruthlessly stripped you of the illusions to which you clung so tightly. It is impossible to simultaneously retain your comfort and gain true power. It is impossible to hold on to your false self and embody authentic truth. The secret unfolds sequentially, step by step, and each new stage demands an even deeper level of honesty. And this honesty is not with others, but with yourself. Reflect. What is my true essence when all masks and roles fall away from me? What parts of me have been suppressed or silenced in an attempt to conform to my surroundings? What deep truths about myself have been buried under the burden of the everyday struggle for existence? These questions are not merely rhetorical. They represent sacred gateways to profound understanding. For what you suppress does not disappear without a trace. It continues to invisibly influence your being, dictating its terms from the depths of the subconscious. And creation stemming from this suppression only generates new distortions and disharmony in reality. True initiation lies in the ability to look at oneself without judgment or pity, but with clarity and a willingness to embrace the authentic self. Awareness is not an abstract idea. It is a powerful force capable of transforming unconscious creation into purposeful and conscious creation. When you direct awareness to your beliefs, they begin to transform. When you are aware of your emotions, they find peace. When your actions are permeated with awareness, they come into harmony. It is in this state of harmony that the process of manifesting desires becomes natural and effortless, not because life itself suddenly becomes devoid of difficulties, but because inner resistance disappears. One does not control the external world. However, by delving into the depths of your inner world and achieving complete awareness within it, you will discover that the external world surprisingly begins to reflect and correspond to this inner state. This is the paradox of true power. The less you pursue something, the more you attract it. The less effort you exert to control, the broader your influence becomes. For awareness possesses an attractive force. It purifies your inner vibration, amplifies your energetic field, and transforms your existence from a chaotic set of reactions into a conscious and purposeful flow of creation. And if you are reading these lines now, if the words resonate in your soul and something within you begins to unfold, it means that you are already on this path. The process of awareness is unfolding. The initiation has already begun, not because someone granted you this right, but because your own soul gave its unequivocal consent. You do not need special attire, complex rituals, or external approval. All that is required is to remain vigilant, constantly choosing conscious presence in the moment instead of habitual patterns and programmed behaviors, choosing truth instead of apparent comfort, depth instead of superficial distractions. In this lies the true secret, the ancient knowledge that, it is said, taught transmitted not through strict dogmas, but through the subtle vibrations of being. Awareness itself is a ritual. It is a portal. It is undeniable proof. And once you step beyond that threshold, there is no turning back, only movement forward, into even greater depth. You were never meant to beg for what your soul already fully contains. Yet this is the behavior the world has conditioned you to adopt. You are forced to grovel for approval, to strive for your own worth, to earn attachment and love through superficial actions, to chase a sense of freedom while bearing invisible chains. Somewhere along the way, you are led to believe that true power resides outside of you, that it belongs to powerful institutions, honorable titles, complex systems, or other people. And because you accepted this belief, you gradually, bit by bit, quietly and imperceptibly, surrendered your own power, time and again. But deep inside, you always felt that something about this state of affairs was wrong. This feeling manifested in the gaping void that invariably followed every external, seemingly successful endeavor, in the dull, aching pain hidden behind every achievement that never brought the true peace you had so hoped for. This was not a sign of failure. On the contrary, it was your soul rejecting the lie. For power is not something that can be earned or acquired. It is remembered. It was always within. And manifestation is not something you must relentlessly chase. It is something you uncover within yourself when you stop pretending to be powerless and helpless. Thoth never urged you to believe in magic. He asked you only to remember your inner divinity, to stop mistakenly equating humility with self-annihilation. There is nothing sacred in diminishing yourself, in shrinking. There is nothing enlightened in dimming your own light, just to remain acceptable in the eyes of others. If the surrounding field reacts to your own frequency, and your frequency is shaped by your deep self-perception, then every time you devalue yourself, you inevitably distort your energetic signal. And the universe mirrors this distortion, perceiving it not as punishment, but as necessary feedback. This is why the process of manifestation seems impossible. For so many people, the reason is not that they are somehow broken or flawed, but that they are trying to manifest their desires from an identity that was never truly theirs. It is an identity formed under trauma, as a result of external programming, in a long and slow process of forgetting who they truly are. You cannot call forth your highest timeline if you continue to identify with your lower, traumatic history. You cannot manifest true freedom if you unconsciously believe you deserve captivity or limitations. And it is this belief, deeply rooted in the subconscious, that keeps people trapped. The secret thought pointed to was not an attempt to control or manage the external world. It was a reminder that the world itself reacts to you, to your unique frequency, to your true essence, to your inner architecture. And the very moment you stop playing an imposed role and begin to align with your true self, that's when everything around you starts to move. Not because you forced it to happen, but because you finally stopped resisting what already rightfully belongs to you. You are not destined to drag out an existence, constantly waiting for someone's permission. Your true purpose is to create, to express yourself, to embody the divine spark that ceaselessly pulsates with every breath you take. The soul does not need endless proofs of its authenticity. It merely needs space. Space to speak freely, to remember its true nature, to radiate its light unimpeded. And when you grant it this precious space, when you eliminate the annoying noise of the external world, cast aside imposed programs, and shed layers of false identity, then you will clearly realize you were never flawed or insufficient. You were merely obscured, covered in layers, forgotten, but by no means lost. This is why authentic manifestation is not about acquiring something more from outside. It is about becoming something more within, not more for others, not more significant in the eyes of the world, but more for yourself, more of your true self, that version of you that will not distort or dilute its truth to please others, that version that feels no guilt for possessing inner strength, that version that makes no apologies for its complete and vibrant existence. And make no mistake, there are invisible forces that greatly benefit from you remaining insignificant, from you doubting your own capabilities, from you confusing blind obedience with true dignity. But they only prevail when you forget your true essence, when you allow yourself to believe the lie that your dreams are too bold, your visions too unusual, and your voice too loud. However, you were not sent here to live in a comfort zone. You were called here to remember, to awaken, to restore the temple of your being. Stone by stone, word by word, choice by choice. Your inner blueprint has long existed. It is invisibly inscribed in your bones, meticulously encoded in every breath you take, and gently whispered by your intuition. You do not need additional preparation time. You do not need new authority or external permissions. You need only one thing: to stop asking for approval, to be who you already are. For the universe responds not to your unrealized potential. It reacts to your authentic presence, not to the version of yourself you try to appear as, but to the one you become when you stop hiding and disguising yourself. It is this authentic version, this unique frequency, that attracts to you the life that has long been waiting for its moment. It is this that makes the very fabric of reality bend and adjust, not because you force it to, but because you resonate with it, correspond to it. You are never separate from the all-encompassing power you so diligently seek. You have simply temporarily lost connection with the part of yourself that is capable of fully mastering it. And now, bit by bit, breath by breath, you are remembering. You are rebuilding your being. And this is not just important. This is the very essence of your existence. The deeper you advance along this path of self-discovery, the clearer the understanding becomes. The true secret is not in trying to transform into something else. On the contrary, it lies in returning to that authentic state that has always resided within. It is here that the illusory nature of so-called manifestation dissolves, revealing its profound essence. The true reality is that there is no need to summon or attract anything from outside. What you relentlessly desire, what you strive for with all your soul, what you pursue with persistence, already exists. It is not in some distant future, but resides in a parallel dimension of now. And the only thing separating you from this desired reality is not a matter of effort, but of perfect alignment or coherence. A true teacher never taught manifestation as a tool for crudely manipulating the surrounding reality. They revealed it as a crystal-clear mirror, as a sacred process of reunion with oneself. And the deeper you delve into this awareness, the clearer it becomes. Manifestation is not about acquiring a desired object or circumstance. It is rather the dismantling of the profound illusion that you are separate from it. The field of universal energy does not operate on the principle of fulfilling demands. It works on the principle of reflection. It does not respond to pleas or attempts at bargaining. It responds to your being. Who are you right now? Not what you do, not what you think, but specifically, who are you at your core? For the greatest secret states, what you seek, you already are. Abundance, inner peace, clarity of thought, unconditional love. All of this lives within the version of you that remembers this original truth. The version that realizes it is not a temporary guest in this world, but an integral extension of it. Not a helpless pawn of circumstances, but an active participant in the grand universal unfolding. This, in essence, is a return to the source, not as a final destination, but as a specific frequency, a state of being so perfectly attuned to the original truth that illusion can no longer hold its form, crumbling into dust. Each of the hermetic principles inevitably leads precisely here. All is mind. As within, so without. As above, so below. These were not mysterious riddles meant for intellectual deciphering. No, these were direct instructions. These were fundamental reminders that you do not merely reside in the universe. You are the universe itself, expressing itself in human form. You are not separate from its immutable laws. You are not outside this intricate system. You are the system itself. And once you embody this knowledge, not just intellectually, but at a deep vibrational level, the very nature of reality begins to transform around you. And this happens not because you are trying to coerce or force it, but because you finally begin to resonate with it in perfect harmony. The irony is that the vast majority of people try to use the concept of manifestation as a way to avoid encountering themselves, to escape internal discomfort, to bypass necessary inner work, focusing solely on external gain and material acquisition. However, true manifestation requires the exact opposite approach. It demands complete presence, radical and uncompromising self-honesty, a deep willingness to face every layer of your being, not just the polished and socially acceptable spiritual aspect, but also the shadow, the deep wounds, the insatiable longing, the hidden anger. For only when all parts of you are seen, accepted, and integrated can you transmit a coherent signal. And it is coherence, not perceived perfection, that the universe responds to. This is why so many ancient wisdoms are expressed in paradoxes, because the limited mind cannot grasp what the soul already intuitively knows, that letting go is actually the path to receiving, that stillness is the way to true movement, that surrender is the key to accessing authentic power. You cannot simply think your way to the life you desire. You must become the version of yourself that already lives it. And becoming is a process not of adding something new, but of subtraction. It is the peeling away, layer by layer, of everything that was never truly you, until only the purest essence remains. In this quintessential state, there is no pleading, no need for proof, no desperate chase. There is only clarity, only truth, only pure resonance. It is from this space of essence, without any coercion, that everything begins to unfold naturally. You meet the exact people you need, the necessary ideas arrive, the opportunities meant for you appear. But you do not cling to them, because you have returned to the source. And the source never clings. It flows freely. It constantly expands. It creates not for possession, but for pure expression. And you, being an extension of this great source, are here to do the same. Manifestation is not control. It is not bending the world to your personal will. It is rather a profound remembrance that your will, when perfectly aligned with your soul, is already synchronized with a greater universal design. There is no need to force what is already intrinsically woven into the very fabric of your being. There is only the task of clearing the internal noise, recalibrating your inner signal, and allowing the divine essence within you to unfold unimpeded through time and space. So if you have been chasing, striving, desperately trying to make all of this happen, stop. Listen not to the external world, but to the profound silence that lies beneath it. It is there that true power resides in. Stillness, in truth, in the quiet yet confident remembrance that the key was always in your hands. You simply forgot you were holding it. When the process of inner awakening begins, it never confines itself to a single individual. It is merely the last of illusions to believe that self-awareness is a purely individual matter, that your path to self-realization, harmony, and inner power should be carefully guarded in solitude, while the rest of the world remains in oblivion. However, this was never the true purpose. The very moment you regain understanding of your true essence, a special responsibility is placed upon you. This is not a burden, but rather a higher calling. Your task is not to preach or instruct, but to embody. For the highest form of teaching is your very presence, and the most effective transmission of knowledge is the way you live. You did not come here merely to manifest material things. Your mission is to radiate light, to become a living blueprint of what true alignment looks like. Thus others, sometimes without even realizing why, will begin to awaken in your field. This will happen not because of your words, but because your energy will remind them of something deeply forgotten within themselves. It is like a wave spreading across the world. This is the true work, not to strive to fix the world around you, but to achieve such a degree of inner honesty, such harmony and wholeness within yourself, that your very being creates the conditions for the elevation of others. You will not need to convince anyone, nor will you need to prove the truth of what you know. The energetic field speaks far louder than any words. And when your own frequency becomes crystal clear, it begins to speak for you. People will sense something special around you. Some will be drawn to it, others may be repelled. And this is perfectly natural. Your goal here is not to please everyone. Your goal is to be in complete alignment with yourself. This is the true mission. Not to lead crowds, but to live so fully and uncompromisingly that others, looking at you, feel inspired to follow a similar path. A true mentor never sought universal attention. They simply didn't need it. Their teachings were devoid of egoistic motives. They always concerned the very essence of being. They perfectly understood that those who are internally ready would discover this message not through coercion, but through deep resonance, just as you found it. And now you carry this knowledge not as dry information, but as a living vibration, as a unique way of being. This vibration, in turn, is a powerful signal. The more genuinely you embody it in your life, the more powerfully it is perceived by others. What's next? Your journey continues in constant alignment with yourself, in continuous purification. You continue to consciously choose authentic presence instead of empty display, truth instead of fleeting comfort, deep connection instead of rigid control. You live with clear intention. You speak with absolute clarity. You allow yourself to rest when necessary. You create when the creative spark moves through you. You stop waiting for external permission. You cease trying to be understood by everyone. You simply begin to be. And as you establish yourself in this state, life begins to respond. Not always as you expected, but precisely with what you truly need. Timing, lessons, allies, initiations. All of this begins to shape a unique path. A path that was not predetermined for you, but which you create yourself. It is then that the realization comes. You were never an external observer, looking in from the outside. You were always at the very center, actively shaping the spiral of your own becoming. Having reached this point in your journey, you likely already feel an inner calling, foreshadowing the unveiling of something significantly greater. The profound secret was not hidden from you at all. It merely patiently awaited your inner readiness, your complete presence in the moment, your unconditional yes to this call. And now you have become the bearer of this knowledge, this power. You move forward carrying it within you, silently, yet with great, undeniable power. There is no need for loud declarations or external displays. Your task is to be utterly clear in your intention, in your inner state. For a soul residing in a state of true alignment and harmony possesses a resonance far more powerful than the confused cry of 1,000 lost voices. The true mission is not to awaken the entire world around you. It comes down to ceasing to lull yourself to sleep, to stepping out of a state of voluntary oblivion. Only this single act of self-awakening can radically transform your entire reality. It is in this way that new dimensions of reality are created, not through brute force or coercion, but through subtle vibrations, frequency, not through total control, but through deep inner coherence. You transform from a perpetual seeker into a self-sufficient source, from one who follows into one who activates processes, and in becoming so, you inadvertently grant others unspoken permission to follow your example, not through teachings or instructions, but through the living embodiment of what is truly possible. The era of profound oblivion is rapidly drawing to a close. Ancient codes of consciousness are awakening, and the original patterns of being are once again beginning to manifest clearly. And if you are still here, listening intently and feeling a deep inner resonance, this undeniably testifies you are an integral part of this grand unfolding, a full participant in the great remembering. And the next decisive step is your own, to be taken not by postponing until tomorrow, not by waiting for an ephemeral feeling of complete readiness, but right now, for you already possess everything necessary